The PWHL finals start tomorrow, and for the first time in league history, we will not have Minnesota in the final. It will be an all-Canadian matchup. And Rachel, we can't wait to talk about that, but we're going to have to because the PWHL just trouncing on its own news because they announced 2 additional expansion teams. That's right. Welcome officially Hamilton and Vegas. We're going to get into all of that and more. If we're meeting for the first time, welcome to At Even Strength. This is the home of women's hockey talk at Black Rosie Media. It's an all-access pass to women's hockey from the PWHL, the NCAA international tournaments, and grassroots development. We cover every level of the game with insight, analysis, and conversations that matter. And yeah, the conversations that matter absolutely should be the final. And yet, we kind of have to get some big news out of the way first.
Yeah, and that's not even, mentioning the PWHL draft eligibility list dropping. I mean, I genuinely have problems with all of this rollout all at once, and I have problems with it overshadowing the finals because this is going to be a tremendous PWHL finals between Ottawa and Montreal. The fact that Montreal was finally able to overcome the kind of curse of the higher seed team. For the first time, 7 straight series where the lower seed team has won in the entirety of the league history. Finally, Montreal breaks that curse. They get to the final in a remarkable game 5 that was delayed because of crazy illness going around. Like so much drama
has happened.
You have Marie-Philippe Poulin scoring the game-winning goal in the power play, like being the hero again. There is so much hockey to talk about, and yet the league decided to put 2 expansion announcements over top the PWHL final. I don't understand that.
Make it make sense because again, this is all your timeline. This is your timeline. You could have picked to do this at literally any other point. And speaking of the final, here's the schedule, right? Here's the schedule.
Correct.
Wait a week. Wait a week. No one would fault you. Wait a week.
Wait 3 days. Have game 1 on Saturday. And then you can have your weekdays for your expansion announcements.
And maybe it is because, again, game 5, and we'll get into this, our time, we couldn't even figure out what to talk about first. We're all over the place because, yes, the game 5 was postponed because of illness, and there's also a virus going around in the United States right now. And so that was wild in and of itself. We actually pushed back this midweek recording to just try and get our bearings. And then we, of course, we're hearing the murmurs, and there are 2 announced, maybe another one that we are expecting. So it will be 4 teams because we talked about that too. But it's just...
Yeah. Why are we not talking about this final when now we have all of the teams are going to be ripped apart? All of them
it's
for
insane.
4 expansion teams at once. There's so many factors here in terms of how it affects current players and the fan base. We already detailed last time around the supposed expansion plan and the 5 phases and of free agency and protection and whatever, which is exceedingly confusing. But we're in this mode where we can't even celebrate these 2 current teams who have done so much to get to the final because now all we're thinking about is the teams getting ripped apart.
It's wild. But you know what? We got to start somewhere. Let's start with Vegas. Introducing PWHL Vegas. So they've got the cacti. I think that's a little bit of the red rock there. So, again, it's a situation where we have expansion. We've talked about this before, Rachel. The rollout, I just don't understand why we're getting it piecemeal. I think they could have waited, do all of the announcements on one day. Staggering them would be even better, but I guess that ship has sailed. But we also have, this is just another look. You can see they're really leaning into the cacti again. That's kind of the valley area, looking out I think the Las Vegas Aces practice facility is somewhere in this photo. If looking, I think we're looking out over Henderson in somewhere in here. But that is the one thing that we can say. Let's start just with Vegas, right? This is a market I think that surprised some people. But our good friend Ava Wood did talk about that this is a town that is owned right now by the Las Vegas Aces, 3 championships in 4 seasons. Looking for another. I mean, Asia Wilson runs the Vegas Strip right now.
Yep.
The team colors here are this green and gold. It's like a pea green. I don't love that green. Listen, the cacti I'm down with. That's just not exactly the color I think of when I think of a cactus. But okay.
No,
It's a
it's
little
not
pea.
bright enough.
Yes.
It's too muted.
Yeah.
It honestly looks like baby food to me.
Oh, okay. So here we go. We're hearing the expansion efforts supported by MGM Resort International, a joint venture owner of T-Mobile Arena. That is the arena where the Vegas Golden Knights play. And that is where this team will play at T-Mobile Arena, have training facilities in Henderson. That's where the AHL Silver Knights play. That is, again, also where the facilities are for the Aces. They have very nice facilities there. The rise of girls youth hockey was a big selling point, Rachel, in this expansion to Las Vegas. I mean, I think it's safe to say it's not the only place that's had this exploding interest in hockey, including Hamilton, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I mean, what stands out to you the most? A 600% increase in youth hockey participation in Nevada overall. That surge, they mentioned girls and women with a 600% increase since the Golden Knights inaugural season in 2017. They do also lean into this being the first team in the U.S. Southwest, which basically just means the Southwest of North America, because obviously Canada doesn't. Well, I guess they do have a Southwest, but it's also
That's
just
Vancouver.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they're already there. And then let's actually see that, they always have these hype videos. So let's play the Vegas hype video.
And I want to talk about that after we see it.
Roll that beautiful bean footage and then we'll talk about it.
We just getting started. Finger on trigger with aim on a target. I'm shooting my shot, yeah. It's right on the money, no discount, no bargain. Hearing them calling. The clock is ticking, we cannot be stalling. We pulling up hard. Hey, one shot, one chance, I gotta go all in. You know what it is, I gotta get it. You know what it is, I'm gonna win it. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it is, I gotta get it. You know what it is, get down to business. You know what it is. You know what it is. Game time, check, game time, we game time, check, game time, we up. Gotta stay up, way up. It's cut it up when a rematch. First time won't be last. It's the beginning, we just got started. It's the beginning, we just got. 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 It's the beginning, we just got started.
All right, playing into the slot machines a little bit there. Some coins. I don't know. What are the names going to be? Let us know in the chat. But Rachel, I know you wanted to talk about the video. Definitely different than some of the other videos, including the Hamilton one we'll play.
Yes and no. I feel like this whole expansion process with this league has gotten too templated, to be honest. I feel like the rollouts have been all the same. And when you have 4 of them together, it's one thing when you have like 1 in a year or maybe the 2. I just feel like it's the same exact thing. And it feels like because these timelines are so condensed, that's probably part of it. But like you go to the arena, right? You have a podium and you have somebody from the league, you have maybe the mayor, you have somebody from the NHL team if it's relevant, right? I guess Hamilton will be different because they don't have one. But, you know, they had somebody from the Vegas Golden Knights, they give their little rah-rah speech. They've got some local hockey player that says something. They have a couple of youth players say something.
Yeah.
They play the video and they're like, yay, welcome to City USA or welcome to City Canada. Like, to me, there's not enough uniqueness and not enough like local identity other than talking about maybe, you know, you see the jerseys of the specific youth hockey programs there, right?
Yeah.
Or whatnot. You know, in Detroit, they talk about, you know, the long legacy of hockey and it being hockey town, but like, I don't know. I just feel like all of this feels cookie cutter to me.
I think there's that. I think also this was super duper cookie cutter for me because, as we know, there was no takeover tour in Vegas, and some people feeling that should not have put them on the fast track. Now, there has been a rivalry series there before. Vegas has shown its support in other versions of women's hockey, so there's that. But I hear what you're saying, and I mean, it's a reminder that this is a league that is a single entity. It is solely owned. So everything about this league is cookie cut in a lot of ways. And I mean, it's perhaps because of, if I were to give some grace, we'll say it's because of efficiency, but it's efficiency that is self-created. Because again, there are so many ways we could have done this rollout, and dumping it literally in between the entry draft list and game 1 of the Walter Cup final. That is the first ever final that will not feature the Minnesota Frost. Like, that's a choice. And maybe you say, okay, that game got postponed, so maybe they would have given us 2 days in between. Still not great.
I think it pulls focus. I think the other part of it is like when you're looking at Vegas, right? There's a lot of people in markets, to your point, you know, who had takeover tours, who sold out. They showed up, they spent their money, they expressed their interest and said, we want a team in this town. Denver said that. Chicago said that. Edmonton said that. You know, where you like cities where there were multiple takeover tour events, not in the same year and in previous years, right? And it just felt like there was a pecking order based on the takeover tour, and the league did nothing to dispel that whatsoever. You know, they really touted the takeover tour as an expansion audition. And so to have not one, not two, maybe, well, yeah, 2, because Hamilton was on the takeover tour, but 2 of the 4 expansion teams, you know, assuming San Jose is number 4, right?
Yeah.
Which is what all
will announce tomorrow, right before the final. No,
probably, honestly, who knows? But like, I think that could like put off some people. Do I want to be excited about these new teams? Yes. I do. I think league expansion is good. I just don't think this kind of expansion at this pace is good for many reasons, which I have detailed.
Yeah.
It's the ripping apart of teams. It's the lack of an officiating pool. It's the spreading resources too thin when we don't even know truly the financial structure of this league and who's in charge of what in all these different markets. We just don't know. Yeah. How do they handle marketing in Vegas versus Hamilton? Nobody knows.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions that this raises, and we just don't have the answers right now. And honestly, we don't want to dive too deep into this, but we are going to talk about Hamilton before recapping what was a fantastic semifinal and then getting you ready for tomorrow, where we start the championship series. But before we do that, we're going to keep it balanced, which would be interesting because if it is San Jose, then that means the U.S. gets a leg up. You win a gold medal in 2026 and you get an extra PWHL team or something, probably. Here's the Hamilton logo. I like these colors much better.
Yeah.
I can't make out exactly what's there in the background, but I've also never been to Hamilton, so I don't recognize it as much as I do Vegas or the Henderson area. So Hamilton,
Well, it's on the lake, so maybe there's something
there
there.
you go. Looks a little industrial to me, like, warehouse vibes. But again, never been there. The home of the Nurse family. So that's exciting from a hockey perspective. I don't know. Will Sarados go from one expansion team to another to get closer to home? I guess we gotta figure all that out. But we have another little sizzle that we'll play for you.
Can you hear the roar from the hammer? There's been so much excitement, so much hype in Hamilton. Step up, shoot, he scored! Just like that! This incredible crowd in Hamilton, Ontario today. 16,012 packed inside TD Coliseum.
If Hamilton had a team, that'd be great. I think there would naturally be a huge rivalry there.
You go. Now, I've never been to Hamilton, but there are actually some people on the New York Liberty staff that are from the kind of greater Toronto area, which I am
Is
from
different culturally.
Is different. Okay, so I didn't know I was walking into this because like someone was like near Toronto, and I was like, I don't know exactly what is near Toronto, but I know that Hamilton is closer to Toronto than other Canadian cities that I'm familiar with.
Okay, so this is the side of the lake, right?
Okay,
and you have Toronto here, and you have Buffalo down here on Lake Erie, but then you go up to Niagara Falls. So you have like Hamilton is at the V.
Oh, there you go.
So if you're driving like from Buffalo to Toronto, you would go up through like Niagara Falls or wherever you cross in over, and then go around the lake like to Toronto, and Hamilton's like halfway.
Look at that. See, there you go.
I've done this drive.
I've done it the once. Shout out to Angelica. We did that. I think it was for the first ever PWHL draft, now that I think about it. But okay. But yes, it's like explaining the difference. This is the vibe that I got from the coach, the person on the staff for the New York Liberty, who I was like, oh, like kind of near Toronto. I was like, what, like Hamilton? She was like, whoa. I was like, I'm sorry, did not mean to offend. But it seems like, if you're from Hamilton, you're from Hamilton. You're not from Toronto, and vice versa. So I'm learning respect there. But all right, let's hear a little bit about this. So I like the colors better, gold, maroon, and cream.
Yeah, it's a little close to Ottawa, I'm gonna say.
I could see that for sure. That being said, anyone who knows I love a phoenix. That's Fuego, actually, right behind me. But just I actually am a phoenix. You can't see it here, but I've got my my Letterman Award from Elon University. So I love the colors here. I could see that there's a closeness to the Charge for sure. I think there's enough orange in there to kind of
I mean, it's more like the Washington Commanders, but it's close to Ottawa as well.
I could see it. I'm hoping for a phoenix or something. So last time I called this, we got Firebirds, the Coachella Valley Firebirds. I'm ready for just a team to be called the Phoenix. Like, just lean into it. Just do it. And you will immediately be my favorite team. And I promise I will buy the gear right away because I am a Phoenix rising from the ashes, all that stuff. I love. I have no idea where we're going name-wise with this. But I'm not that creative. That's not the side of my brain I use very often. So I'm going to leave that for the comments in the chat. Y'all let us know, what do you think the name is going to be for Vegas? But all three of the teams that are officially announced, Rachel.
Yeah, if it's Lady Knights, I'm jumping off the roof of a building. But, let's continue.
No, please. We don't need that. And no women's sports team has done that in quite some time. Let's just keep that trend alive. But all three teams are set to start next season. Woo! That's wild. Wild, wild, wild. Well, the good news is, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because we still haven't even gotten to how we got to the final, the matchups. But 206 eligible players for the entry draft, including a few names of players that are definitely not fresh out of college. Laura Fortino is one that stands out, did compete in the Olympics, right? For the host nation, if I'm not mistaken. Also Megan Augusta, who was part of something recently with the PWHL, but notoriously someone who worked in law enforcement whilst living out hockey dreams in women's hockey. So there's that. And then we of course have everyone is focused on what we're seeing at the top, or what we expect to see at the top of the draft board, which is Caroline Harvey, Abby Murphy, and
Right.
Layla Edwards listed as a defender, because there was a section for players that are listed as forward and defender.
Correct.
Edwards squarely in the defense. And so I went to the ESPNW summit and I actually got to ask Layla Edwards, hey, like, what was it? Like, how did you with Team USA go about selecting? And she's just like looking at all of the talent on the squad, looking who is at forward. It looked like an opportunity, right, for me to be able to make an impact on the back end. The direct quote is, we're very heavy up front and obviously the back end too, but just kind of trying to place myself where I'm most needed and where I'll be most effective. And that's what we agreed on. So that's how she got to the defensive side of things for Team USA. And when I followed up and asked Layla what position she would play in the PWHL, first of all, KK and Hannah Bilka were there with her. And I forget which one. I think it was Bilks who was like, well, goalie, clearly. And started laughing. And I was like, that's all that's left. That's the last frontier. She's got the size. So, you know, and the height, the arm stretch. She said, I'd like to keep my options open and do it all. But as of now, I mean, I've entered the draft and I guess we'll see what general managers want. And I didn't get around to posting that audio. I was saving it for a little bit because I'm trying to wait to get a little bit more clarification on something. But I'll give you this nugget. When I did speak to the GM, of course, of the Seattle Torrent, and when I spoke to Megan Turner, I asked her about Layla Edwards, and you know, just broadly, do you see her competing in one or the other? It was a non-committal answer, but basically saying, you know, it's about a matter of need and what a team needs. But either way, a player like Layla Edwards is going to be just fine. So we'll break this down a little bit more when it comes to some of these players, including, again, some throwback names that if you've been watching women's hockey pre-PWHL, you'll definitely notice. But now let's get into how we got to this final, Rachel, between the Ottawa Charge, no, that's not Hamilton, and the Montreal Victoire. The first ever time we have two Canadian teams going for the Walter Cup. And let's start actually with Ottawa. They had to take down Boston. And, you know, we on our last episode, we kind of were like, what is it going to take, right, for any one of these teams to advance? And one of the things we felt for Ottawa throughout the whole playoffs, right, the whole series, is scoring early was going to be key for them, being able to get a little bit of a cushion. And, you know, there was drama through and through in this series, but they were able to get it done, get through Boston, and get to the final once again, Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, it looked a little dicey there for a hot second when Boston scored 3 goals in a minute and a half in the second period. I was like, what is happening here? I was a little worried. But Gwyneth Phillips got back on the horse and played lights out for the rest of the game. You know, I think it was very exciting. Of course, it goes into 2 overtimes because, of course, naturally, why wouldn't it? But you have Michaela Cava scoring the game-winning goal in that second overtime. She talked about having bad puck luck all game, but then she got the game winner, so that felt good for her. And you also cannot underestimate Fanuza Kadyrova, because she was just the rock star in that game for Ottawa, for sure. It just felt like she was everywhere all the time. And 2 goals, 3 assists in her 4 playoff games. Pretty solid.
Yeah, leading the way when it comes to that. And, I remember that there was some comments about some of the Russian players that were up for eligibility to be on teams. And I think, it's unfortunate for the Federation and for some of the players that got caught up in what's been happening with the Federation. And let's not forget that the Russian women's team for a while they were like the Czechia, right, of women's hockey for a little bit. Like, will they or won't they? Are they going to stick around? Are they the real deal? But there was a lot of young, raw talent. And I just like seeing the ability for, for players coming from other places. And in this case, a Russian national team that really hasn't been able to make an imprint on the international stage, to have a player in the PWHL play so well. I just think the game, all sports really are leaning more international than we've seen in quite some time. And I don't know that I completely feel that the PWHL is embracing that fully. I think that it's kind of been an issue that's forced, including with the rapid expansion that we're getting. But I love that call out there. Tough break here for Boston, led throughout the season. But we started to see it, right? Teams were finding a way to catch up to Boston. Like you said, that second period for them, really solid. You think that they're able to get something done, and Ottawa just really they come back charging, if you will, back.
Yeah.
And it's just really tough. It's a tough way to lose. But Brianne Jenner just will close here on this series before going to the next one. I think it says a lot about us when you go up 2-0 and then in the span of 5 minutes you let that lead go. I think a lot of teams would fold. The fact that we were able to put that in the rearview mirror and just keep going is something that we try to cultivate in our locker room. The combination of, and I do think it's really been a combination of what we've seen as far as Haley Wynn taking over at the back end of the regular season, and then Carla McLeod coming back, with a renewed focus on her health to be able to come back to hockey.
Yeah.
It's not something... I feel like if it's a storyline, it will be something that we hear more from Ottawa after the fact. I think they're staying very much in the moment. But I can imagine, Rachel, that has to play somewhat of a part, whether it's beneficial or not, or if it's a distraction, maybe it's a little bit of both at any given time. But I do think when the dust settles, however this season ends, with Ottawa now going to the final, I do think that's going to be a storyline that we can predict and project will be a part of the narrative of this 2025-26 Ottawa Charge team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of emotion driving them this season, but with some phenomenal hockey on top of it. And just given how last year went with the finals, I feel like they have something to prove here. And again, especially with expansion, that's going to change all these teams very significantly. This is this last chance for this particular group to put this together. And I feel like there's something to that.
Yeah. And I know you keep mentioning it, but it's because it's such a salient point. We know how 2 teams disrupted the PWHL last season. Mm-hmm. It's going to be double that. From what we're expecting. Now, we haven't officially heard the 4th team, but it would be weird to announce just 3, but all of it's a little strange. So who even knows? All right. Who is Ottawa taking on? We had a little bit of a delay, again, due to some health concerns, but we kind of already spoiled it, right? It's going to be an all Canada series. And last time I checked, Minnesota is still in the US of A. So down goes the Frost. Wow. For the first time in PWHL's long history, Rachel, we have no Minnesota in the Walter Cup final.
It's kind of refreshing, not gonna lie. I mean, I love a lot about the Minnesota Frost, and
Yeah.
I think them repeating the first 2 years is actually a good thing, and I think we'll see it as a good thing in the long run, especially as we add years to the league. Just the fact that a team was able to have that early success like that, and have such a strong team, I think is really good in the grand scheme of things. And man, Maddie Rooney, like I cannot say enough good things about her performance in that game. I feel like, between Anne Renee Debian and Maddie Rooney, there were some incredible saves that were made. And just the whole time I was like, I just hate that one of these goalies has to lose this game eventually.
I mean, really, that's how I feel about the playoffs in the PWHL. The goaltending has been
Mhm.
phenomenal. We just continue to be blessed with great goaltending. You know, good on Minnesota to be able to push,
Yeah.
to this game 5. But it was really just all all about Montreal and what they were able to get done. This is a team that bridesmaid, I think I've used that term a few times, right, to describe them, just because we saw them battle and lose the
Yeah.
battle to the Ottawa Charge team. And so now, is this a little bit of a lick back? You have Ottawa, who, they were on the cusp, right? They were hanging right in there with Minnesota, and they fall. And now they have a chance, like you said, and probably the last chance with the group as we know it.
Mhm.
But then they're taking on a team that they've never been to the final, and they too, right, are going to be upended by expansion. To what degree, we know not yet. So I just think, and we've already talked about the emotional aspect from Ottawa, but I do think this is just overly charged. I mean, it makes you ill for the players on a lot of real world things that are going to be impacted after this season. But I mean, if you're the showrunners, so to speak, of the PWHL, you're definitely packing everything with drama.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting, and I love that it's 2 Canadian teams, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
that's fun, and I think that creates a certain level of intensity
Mm,
that we might not have seen otherwise, and, and I love that, it's great because Montreal, like you said, new to the final, they finally break through, right? After, these 3 years, so you can't say low these many years, but 3 years. They finally break through, and they put together a pretty methodical win. I think they pushed through a lot, and especially after they scored that goal, there was still a lot of time left, right? They had
yeah.
to hold that 1-goal lead for a significant
Oof.
portion of the third period, and they did it. The way that they did it defensively, I think, was really impressive. I think Minnesota maybe could have pushed a little harder, but I do think that that Montreal overall played a really good strategic game in order to defend that lead. And
Yeah.
then, so they have that up against a team coming back to the final who has,
Yeah.
again, a lot to prove here. And like they want to show that they can actually take that one next step and get her done. And the fact that they were the runner up last year, right? And it was a long road for them to get back.
Yes.
They weren't guaranteed a playoff spot until the
To
very
the
end.
wire. To the wire. Yeah.
Like, and for them to get back here, it's a testament to
100%.
their game. And so I love this matchup. Love it.
Chef's kiss, chef's kiss. Shout out to Catherine Dubois and Renee Debian and Marie-Philippe Poulin. Those were your 3 stars of the game. Dubois had the opening goal in the first frame. Samantha Coogan for Minnesota in it right around just before the halfway point in the second stanza. But to your point about the defensive effort here, Marie-Philippe Poulin on the power play at the 3:06 mark in the third period. Montreal had 6 shots on goal in the third period. Minnesota 8. They opened the game with 13 shots on goal. So this was super tight, all about skating. Montreal, they were 1-for-1 on the power play. And of course, it was MPP, right? And speaking of Marie-Philippe Poulin, what she had to say after the game, it's very special. Obviously, you work so hard for these moments. We knew it would never be easy. Obviously, taking Minnesota, who were 2-time champs, were look at that. I know she didn't mean to throw shade at all. That's just doesn't seem her style, but it's also just reading it is something. Who were 2-time champs was going to be a battle, and we did it. We're happy right now, but we're not done yet. We want to get to work here, and we're excited to get going on the 14th. We're going to run through the schedule here, but Marie-Philippe Poulin, and I have to give credit. I don't always do this on a women's hockey show, but Sidney Crosby and Marie-Philippe Poulin, I thought showed so much grace, so much respect for the game at the Olympics. Both of them, especially Crosby, who did not suit up for that gold medal game,
Right.
and fielding questions after a tough loss for their team. And doing so with such grace. But of course, I'm going to focus more on MPP. A lot of questions. I was there in the room, wondering if this was the last hurrah. Of course, you and I know, and at Black Rosie Media, we knew she was going to come and play for the Montreal Victoire. But for some people, MPP is, Hockey Canada, as women's hockey has been growing and swelling to what we see now. But I mean, that's another storyline I can't help but think about. How many years does MPP have left if this isn't the final hurrah? As we talked about on last episode, hasn't been healthy, really battling and fighting through something, even going back to the Olympics when we were doing our Olympic coverage. So, storybook ending, either way here, Rachel. I mean, the storylines abound. Which I'm expecting we see a lot of great hockey. We haven't seen a lot of blowouts just in the history of the PWHL playoffs. I think overtime seems to be the name of the game at this level. Because some of these teams have played 2-3 overtimes heading into now the final. So it's like, what else you got for us? We've seen postponements, we've seen suspensions, we've seen triple overtimes, double overtimes, 1-goal games, blowouts, but just really that first one in that Minnesota win. So I don't even know. As far as previews, I think you just got to be ready for whatever.
Honestly, but that's the best part of it. That is honestly the best part of it with this series. And I just think that, there's so many great players on both these teams that could break through at any given moment. Right.
Yep.
And so, that's the thing, is that like, I feel like there hasn't been a player that's just dominated the semifinals, right? There's a couple of players with more than a point per game here, or at a point per game, but there just really hasn't been like a hugely like, oh yeah, this is the dominant factor. I mean, other than maybe Marie-Philippe Poulin and Katarova, but like there's so many other good players that can jump in at any given moment. So
yeah,
I am excited. And I'm excited for the goaltending matchup.
It's going to be good. So, of course, it's going to be Anne-Renee Desbiens versus Gwyneth Phillips. I don't know that we really see much else. I think if we did, that would we're in a place we don't want to be, which of course is injury, right? I just don't know that we're gonna see the shakeup here. And if you're gonna do it, if either team feels that one of their goaltenders need rest, I say get it done early when you have to play at least another 2 games either way. But I think we're gonna see Anne-Renee Desbiens and Gwyneth Phillips go the distance.
Oh, of course. But and this is where sneaky Gwyneth Phillips, who got the Olympic experience, but didn't have the burden of it on her shoulders the way Erin Frankel did. Like, this is where I think this is sneakily going to work to her advantage, because she got to see the game in a way that not a lot of other people did, and especially with Anne Renee Debian at the other end, who
Yeah.
of course was, big for Team Canada. So
Yes,
that
very.
being said, I just feel like that extra experience should give her a little bit of a boost. But we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to record as usual on Friday, but game one will have already happened there, Rachel. So we're going to do our quick little preview, but let's focus on game one. What is the game plan for Montreal in game one? What is the game plan for Ottawa in game one?
Yeah, I think for Ottawa, the game plan is consistency, right? And I think they've been a lot better this year. They haven't been as up and down over the course of a game, but I think the way that they played Minnesota, like they can take that energy because they're going to be facing a fast attack with Montreal in a similar way. Then I do to some extent think that a couple of the Montreal players have a better shot ultimately, but I do think that they just have to drive Montreal to the outside and like really bog Montreal down the way that they can do with their defensive structure. And I think if you're Montreal, you got to push through that, right? You got to make it a track meet.
Yeah.
I think that's the way you win.
Yeah, I see that for sure. I think if we look at what you talked about though, and what we talked about specifically on the last episode, the thing that I am very curious to see when it comes to Montreal is what are they going to be like defensively? Are they going to be able to at times, whether it's either with their offensive prowess and really leaning into their forwards or with their defensive play, how can they take a little bit of heat off of Anne Renee Debian? Like, to me, that seems like a big thing that they have to do is protect their goaltender. And yes, of course, that means not allowing people to charge and attack the net, cleaning up rebounds, things of that nature. But I also think it is a little bit of just go downhill, completely, at least for one game, like really just focus on going downhill, and putting more pressure on Phillips and the Ottawa Charge defense, because like you said, one of the things that you want to see Ottawa do is have that consistency. And we know that they're a consistently inconsistent team. They're also a team that you don't want to run into towards the back end of the season because they have so much tenacity. So when you think about Montreal, they're going to have to find that tenacious level themselves. And I think for them, they know what they're
And they have it. It's there.
Exactly.
They just have to utilize it a little more because Ottawa's going to come fast and furious and it's going to be very, very physical.
Yes.
And I think that Montreal can handle it. They just have to be prepared for it.
100%. You cannot be taken by surprise. And that goes back to, what MPP said, like, we're going to enjoy this, celebrate it, but we're not done yet. And that focus. And sometimes when you focus on like, I'm going to do this one thing really, 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 really well. And I think one of the things that Montreal has to do really, 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 really well in game one to set the tone for the series is to show that they will protect their goaltender by any means necessary and with all methods that they can do so. So I know I said I don't expect a high scoring game, but maybe that's a way that Montreal shows out. And is like, yeah, we're here to play. We're going to not only win this first game, but we're going to freaking snatch it. We're snatching any hope that this is your game right out of your hands.
Well, I am excited for everybody who will be at Place Bell because that's going to be rocking.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Let's take another look at the schedule. So tomorrow, in between this episode and our next, Place Bell, as you said, will be rocking for game number 1. And then on the 16th, it will be at Place Bell again, 7 p.m. on what will be the Thursday game, and then 2 p.m. over the weekend. Game 3 is set in Ottawa on 5/18, 6 p.m. Eastern at Canadian Tire Center. And then we have our, if necessary, game 4 will be on 5/20. Date to be determined if we get to a game 5, but it will be back at Place Bell. And as you can see, if you're watching on our video feed, this is going to be available on Ion. Now, we talked about this partnership, Rachel, several weeks ago when it was first announced, and here we are. Also, you can watch on TSN and RDS, so as well as YouTube. So YouTube is still an option, but there will be some network options as well throughout the US and Canada. But this is an all Canada final. Ooh, oh man, this is really great. They're like, oh, we're only going to get one expansion team out of the next 4. Well, I guess that means Walter is coming up, is shipping up north of the border. So that's going to be wild. But we'll have a recap, of course, of game 1 on our Friday episode, and then getting you ready for game 2. We talked about it a little bit just before we close. Let's remind you that we do have the PWHL draft declaration and eligible players list. 23 Olympians from 8 countries, all around, 226 forwards, 3 that are listed as two-way players, 38 defenders, including Layla Edwards, who we mentioned, Augusta Fortino on there, and then also a Swiss goaltender, Rachel, that really turned some heads most recently in the Olympics. But if we're keeping it a buck, this is a player that if the international game, that has been really a great standout for her team.
Oh yeah, Andrea Brandley is like one of my favorite international goaltenders. I'm so excited for her to be in the PWHL. I will buy all the merch for her.
I love it. I mean, that Swiss team, obviously, what a great run for them. We caught up with them throughout the Olympics. They had a goal to hit the podium, and it didn't work out for Alina Mueller and the Boston Fleet to get to the final this year. But what a Olympics from Mueller. Just couldn't go the distance, but again, more international flair. Love to see that. But Rachel, for our next episode, we're going to lean heavily into the finals. We do want to stick with the here and now. We are expecting there's going to be some more expansion news, more draft news, and we'll do our best to keep up with that. But we really do want to focus our next several episodes focusing on
the hockey.
Finals. Yeah, because so come on, PWHL, help us help you. Help us help you. Don't do so many news drops where, the finals is our second or third segment.
All right. Also, maybe you want to tell some of the carriers, like, I don't know, like I'm looking at Fubo TV's programming grid, and Ion's programming has not been updated to include the finals yet. But, just talk about that.
Come on, let's go. Like, we've got some work to do. But either way, we will be here for you, covering it all at Even Strength. We're also getting some of the crew, some of the Olympic crew together. We've got some news that's coming from the international space. We want to have experts there. We are hoping that we'll have some other contributors that will help in what will be the off season and going into season 4, but we will divulge all of that again on the other side of the final. But oh man, a new champion, and the journey starts tomorrow. We will have you covered at Even Strength. For Rachel Donner, Erica L Ayala here. We will be back with you recording on Friday for a Saturday morning episode. For y'all, be well. Let's try to keep our sanity while we wait for more and more PWHL news, but truly lean into what we expect to be a great championship series. We will catch you on the next episode of At Even Strength, brought to you by Black Rosie Media.